Welcome to the official YouTube channel of Eternia.com. I'm your host AJ, and today we're doing an unboxing and a mini review of the Masters of the Universe Origins He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon collection, Spikor and Clawful figures. And I'm so excited to take a look at these figures today. And look, for anyone who's watched this channel long enough, they know I'm a huge fan of the 1983 Filmation series, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. But you might be asking yourself, AJ, why are you reviewing and unboxing two figures at the same time in the same video? Don't you usually do separate videos? Yes, I do. But truth be told, I got both Spikor and Clawful at the same time, and I couldn't decide which one to review first. Spikor or Clawful, Spikor or Clawful. And then bam, I had an epiphany. Why don't you review both figures at the same time in the same video? And that's what I'm doing today. So let's start right away. Let's get into this packaging. I love the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe iconic logo. That looks so great. And same thing with the Filmation castle, Grayskull. I love that castle so much. And then the figures are looking good. We got the mini comic in the back. Oh, and I see those artifacts. Can't wait to take a look at those. And then as we turn these around, look at this great artwork. So once again, these fantastic illustrations were created by the amazing Francisco Echart. And he did a brilliant job, capturing these like iconic scenes from these iconic He-Man episodes. To the left, we have a scene from the episode The Games, and to the right, we have a scene from the episode Dree-El's Return. And Francisco does an amazing job. Oh, I love his artwork. And then we have a look at the figures in the wave, and then we have a look at the figures in the artifacts. But you know what? I don't even want to look at them now. I don't even want to talk about them now. I want to talk about them when they're in hand. So why don't we waste no more time? Let's get these figures out of their bubbles and take a closer look. So here they are, the cartoon collection Spikor and Clawful, out of its packaging, and I'm going to spin it quickly in 360 degrees. And my first impression is, these look great. Mattel has done an excellent job taking the cartoon versions of these iconic characters and realizing them in plastic form. They did an amazing job bringing these characters to life, so to speak. And first, starting with Spikor in regards to screen accuracy, it was interesting. Spikor, in some of the episodes, his armor looked more blue, and same thing with his head, and then sometimes it looked more purple. So it varied from time to time, from episode to episode. But overall, the paint application, the colors used look spot on. This looks like the cartoon Spikor, From his pink skin color to his gauntlets that matched his skin color. Yes, they did. They actually matched in the cartoon. From his orange belt to his black furry loincloth and his boots, to those yellow eyes, and everything looks terrific. And same thing with the sculpting as well. I mean, he just looks fantastic here. Yeah, I got no complaints with this sculpt. And the same thing with Clawful. I mean, with the paint application here, the orange armor is spot on, and those gauntlets and those boots with the spiked toes. And same thing with this little blue gemstone that he has on there, and his blue loincloth. Everything looks right. The spikes are really his main, so to speak. We'll get into that. And his yellow eyes. The colors are great. The sculpting is great. Yeah, these are really two excellent cartoon collection figures. All right, so now let's take a closer look at their head sculpts, starting with Spikor. So here's a closer look at Spikor's head sculpt, and he looks great. Looks like all the spikes are in the right place. I love how his eyes are painted like that. It's a nice clean paint job. The way his mouth is sculpted. It's interesting. When Spikor would open his mouth in the Filmation cartoon, he had a full mouth of teeth, He had teeth on the top jaw and on the bottom jaw, but anytime he'd close his mouth, he'd have like these 4 snaggle teeth protruding over his lips, 2 on each side, and this is him with his mouth closed, and yep, it's definitely screen accurate. He looks terrific. All right, so now let's bring in Clawful. Take a look at his head sculpt, and another great looking head sculpt. What's interesting here, and purists might not like this. So, look, I've always had a little issue with the Filmation version of Clawful, in regards to his head. I always thought that first his head looked less like a crustacean and more like a dinosaur, or sometimes on some angles, he looked like a horse. And I always joked, if you put hoofs on Clawful instead of claws, the Filmation version, we could call him Horseman. Or maybe we could call him even Seahorse Man. What's really interesting here is, and purists might not be totally thrilled about it, but they made his snout less protruding, He looks less like a dinosaur here, less like a horse here, and more like a crustacean. And I actually appreciate this look. I actually like that they modified the nose a little, that they pushed it in a little, because now he looks a little more crabbish, a little more lobsterish, But yes, it's true. Even though in the cartoon he had a tongue, and it looks like he has a tongue in there, crustaceans, they don't have tongues. So it still doesn't quite make sense, but I really love what Mattel did with the head sculpt here. I definitely, at least for me, think it's an improvement. So in regards to articulation, there's nothing to see here, folks. It's just that standard Origins cartoon collection that you've come to expect from these figures. Nothing less, nothing more. I do wish that these claws of Clawful can open and close and be articulated like the Masterverse figures, but they can't. They just have that standard articulation. And of course, the body could be separated in all the normal areas, so, you can swap pieces, which is still always so much fun. All right, so let's talk accessories, starting with Spikor. Now, in regards to Spikor's accessories, there was something I was overwhelmed with, and a couple items I was underwhelmed with. And let's begin with being underwhelmed. So Spikor comes with these artifacts here from the episode The Games, and these are actual game pieces. And the episode story had that typical trope where an alien came down, picked a good guy and a bad guy, and had them battle. But instead of battle, they played a game. They collected these balls, and every yellow ball was worth, I think, 100 points, and the red ball was worth 2,000 points, and whoever had the most points won. And unfortunately, these balls do not look like what we saw on screen. First, these buttons are supposed to be black, but secondly, what Mattel used is translucent plastic, and it's not supposed to be translucent. I mean, it wasn't in the cartoon. These game pieces were solid colors. Maybe they used translucent plastic because in the cartoon, these game pieces would glow. I'm not sure, but that's what they did. And another thing that's really kind of disappointing with these is the construction is strange. They put these handles in these balls. Now, of course, balls are not supposed to have handles, but they carved these in them. They sculpted them in these game pieces, so Spikor could hold it, but it comes off like this, like it's just a keg, like he's gonna drink. Man, have an ale, buddy. It's funny about Spikor, he didn't really talk that way. He talked like, "May I have some ale?" He had this strange, "I will get you, he-man, I will," up and down kind of voice. So I digress. I'm not very thrilled with these game pieces at all, their construction, their design. But what I am thrilled with is this trident hand. I'm amazed because in most of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, he appeared with two regular hands, but there was a portion of screen time where Spikor actually had like a trident hand, much like he did with the vintage figure. And he looked really menacing this way, and I really didn't expect Mattel to include this, but they did, and I'm so happy they did because I love them this way. All right, so now let's talk Clawful's accessories. And he only comes with one accessory, and it's an artifact. And for anyone who's familiar with the episode Jor-El's Return, this is the Horn of Evil. And I love it, and then I not so much love it. And what I mean is, in regards to his sculpt, the sculpt is fantastic. It really is like the spitting image of the Horn of Evil that we saw on the episode. But unfortunately, I think it needs a little more paint application. It needs a little bit to be a little more white in the front, including the skull. And the skull itself needs like black eyes and a black nose. So unfortunately, it's just sculpted in, one color. And I wish it had a little additional paint application. So what do I think of the Masters of the Universe Origins, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon collection, Spikor and Clawful figure? I love them. Look, as a fan of the 1983 classic cartoon, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the most important thing to me with these figures, the most important thing is that they're screen accurate, that they look like the cartoon they are celebrating. And in the case of Spikor and Clawful, mission accomplished. In regards to his paint colors and the sculpting, these two figures look like their cartoon counterparts, and I couldn't be more happy to put these on my shelf. And I love the attention to detail, even though I didn't, I wasn't thrilled with the paint application in regards to the Horn of Evil. I love the sculpt. The sculpt looks terrific. And I also love the fact that even though Spikor didn't have his trident weapon on his arm for a long period of time, that Mattel paid enough attention to include it. That's paying attention to detail there. Something that I really appreciate. It's called showing the love, and that really makes me happy. And I just hope that they keep continuing this cartoon collection line for years to come, and we go really, really deep in the animated lore. Well, that's it. I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.